Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2023 show. I'm your host, Don Kay, and we are coming to you from Green Street Pub and Eatery, 911 North Green Street in Brownsburg. Tonight's program is presented by the Indy Dental Group. It's Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a spectacular practice. If you think you need your teeth checked, I highly recommend you go and see them. They have 5 offices in the area, so they'll find one that fits you. You call and make an appointment at number 317-846-6125. That's the Indy Dental Group. If you need insurance for anything, your vehicle, home, whatever, go to VP Insurance. They're located just a mile or so at 5004 West 16th Street, about a mile west of the Speedway. Talk to Mike Pardee or Tom. The number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance and Speedway. And if you like Trans Am, you like vintage Indy cars, you like any kind of race car, SVRA's got it all. So go to their website, svra.com, and check out the schedule. If there's an event within an hour drive, I highly recommend you go. It's a phenomenal event. They bring great cars, great racing. You'll have a good time. I want to make a mention. If anybody's read the book, The Legend of the First 500 by Mark Dill, it was a spectacular book, and he's come out with another one, which I have a copy of, and of course I forgot. I left it on the table and walked off without it. It's about the greatest driver in history, and it's Barney Oldfield. The story of Barney Oldfield and the characteristics of his challenge to the world on driving race cars. So I will have it with me the next time, and with any luck, we'll be able to show it. It's a good book. I started reading. It's very interesting. I want to also mention that the sound in-house is provided courtesy of Pearce Productions, and he is now going to be an intern with the camera in case the videographer is tied up cutting grass or refereeing or something. My first guest tonight is a gentleman that spent the majority of his life in motorsports that I'm aware of. I believe at one time he was with IMS, he was with the Indy Racing League. In its inception, he was out at IRP as a general manager, I think, and he's gone upwards and upwards and upwards from there. And currently he is involved in something that's very crucial to motorsports and to a lot of things. It can help many things, and that's safety. And of course, I'm talking about the irrepressible Mr. Tom Weisenbach.
Hello, Don.
How are you?
I'm good. Great to be back.
Well, I know it's excited to be back when you, of course, were overseas, but before we get to that, what has kept your career involved in motorsports? Did you drive at one time and said you're too big for the car?
Never.
Were you a mechanic and said I can't?
6'5", there wasn't a car that I'd fit in, I don't think. So it had to be a convertible maybe, so no. It's through the years, I think where I really got turned on to it, working at IndyCar and IMS, I was fortunate enough to work with some great people like Hank Bach, Phil Casey, Mike Yates, Jeff Horton, guys who really are passionate and put their, Terry Trammell, I mean, they put their whole careers into finding ways to keep our racers, our participants, the crew members, the fans safer. And I think it rubbed off on me. And then when I went and when Governor Daniels created Indiana Motorsports Association, and I took on that role as executive director, I met companies all across the state of Indiana who you found so many of them that were passionate about safety again. And so again, whether it's a chassis builder, Lafayette, Indiana, McKinney Corporation, Murph McKinney, who builds top fuel and funny car chassis. It just, again, you're around that people, I think it just rubs off on you. At the end of the day, if we don't keep our racers safe, the racers are what makes the show. Without the racers, we don't have a show. So it kind of made sense to me, let's focus on safety as much as we can.
The sad part of that is, it's good, but the sad part is usually you don't recognize a problem until there's a tragedy. And you say, here's what we can do to solve that, won't happen again.
I think you're right. I think motorsports specifically, I think NFL, NHL are probably very similar, very reactive instead of proactive. And that's what's sad. I think we need to be as much proactive as we can. The organization that I'm the executive director of now, the International Council of Motorsport Sciences, ICMS, it's been around since 1989. Again, it is very much driven by proactive. We're working on the next way to figure out to treat a spine injury or concussion, and we're getting information shared from around the world, which it's not just relying on our local experts. We're sharing data, we're sharing information, we're sharing experiences with people from all over, which I think is very important for us, because again, we don't have all the answers here in Indianapolis. They don't have all the answers in Europe or South America, and that camaraderie and constant knowledge sharing is very important, I think, for our future.
Well, it would seem to me if you haven't had a problem, you don't know to look for it, but a series somewhere else in the world has it. They can say, here's what we've discovered, here's what you need to look at, which would jumpstart what you're doing and make your reaction faster and solve the problem quicker. Yeah,
very much so. And I think that's the biggest scene is you learn from others. I won't say mistakes, but I think it's traditionally in life that's what we would say, but I think we learn from other people's incidents and accidents. And you hope it's not a fatal one. Some of them are, and that's when we really seem to dive into it more. We invest more time and money if someone actually passes. But just in general, injuries, period, I think that's the important thing is that we are trying to just, by sharing, I think we're going to continue to figure out ways to keep the drivers safe. You look at what some of our local companies here in the Brownsburg area, Bald Spot Sports, and some of the other ones do to keep the head of a drag racer in a funny car or a fuel car stable so they're not getting shook, right? You go back to what happened to Eric Medlin with the tire shake. His head, his brain got shook so hard, that's what killed him. And now those drivers' heads are so tight with soft cushion foam around them, there's nowhere for their head, the helmet to move if they have tire shake. So again, I think we need to continue to push ourselves to figure out what else can we do to keep our industry going in a forward position.
Now, next week or the week after, I think it is, the PRI show is in town.
Yeah.
And you have set up a 2-day session where you can learn all kinds. You've got some of the top people in the motorsports coming to talk about safety, about everything. What is it going to cover in the 2 days, and who all is going to be there?
It's a lot. Our membership, we're a membership-based organization, individual membership. With the IMA, when I ran that here in Indiana, it was more of a corporate membership. So this is a little bit more challenging because the dollar amounts are smaller than what a company would pay. But our membership, we have members in 21 countries now. I took over 3.5 years ago, right in the middle of COVID. Not a great time to do something like this. But I had lost my other 2 clients. I was looking for something. Arnie Coons from the SFI, the late great Arnie Coons, called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking over the ICMS?" I said, "Sure." So I interviewed for it and I took the position. But coming up in the week of PRI, we also have what we call the ICMS Annual Congress, or it's our annual event that we host at the same time as PRI. PRI is an incredible supporter of our program, but it's 2 days of really white paper, scientific and medical presentations. But what I love about it is who we have coming in. So we have folks coming in from 11 different countries. We have the chief medical officer from 6 different Formula One races that'll be participating, actually just attending because they want to learn more. So that's really neat. Dino Altman from Brazil, former president of the FIA's Medical Commission, is actually presenting. He was going to come up, and then to kind of help him, I guess, why am I going to spend all that money to come up? We asked him to also present because he's working on a really neat new project. Shireen Habib, she's from Saudi Arabia, where she's the chief medical officer for the F1 race in Saudi Arabia. She's coming all the way over. So again, it's neat. And obviously Terry Trammell. I got Terry actually up on stage this year. He's going to present on one of the topics we have with Denise Titus, who's one of the RNs at IndyCar. And I will say that when I took over the program, they were down to about 75 paying members. Now we're about 220. We've tripled the corporate sponsorships support that we have, but we had no RN, very little involvement from the RN side, the nursing side, and I'm big on it. My wife's a nurse. I know that's important. We've really pushed hard to increase that type of, that sector of the industry. Our membership is doctors, nurses, first responders, so EMT, firemen, paramedics, who all work at a racetrack somewhere in the world. And so again, when we get together, it's 2 days of sharing of information. This year, we try to do themes. We break the morning, afternoon session up, and we do themes in the morning, themes in the afternoon. So the morning session on day one is the big one. And the big one, I will say, Don's heard me, we've talked about this before. My first year at IRP, I've been to U.S. Nationals since I was 12 years old. My first year working at IRP is the year we lost 2 racers, Blaine Johnson and Elmer Trent. I mean, I went home after that and asked my wife, what the hell I got myself into? I mean, seriously, you lose 2 really good people in a matter of 2 days. I was shook up from that. But the big one, this came about from the medical team at Pocono Speedway. Lehigh Valley Medical Center is where the doctors and nurses are from who work at Pocono. And they had to deal with the Justin Wilson incident and also the Robert Wickens incident. And they came to us after last year's event, or during last year's event, and said, hey, we want to present next year. Here's why. We thought we had a really good plan in place if we had a catastrophe or if we had a fatality. And we learned so much from Justin's incident that we've improved that plan. And then they're going to be able to compare what they've done differently when Robert was in his incident, how they just managed the situation, working with the team, the family, transport to the local hospital, who stays with them. So they're going to present their plan and how they actually changed it. I think that's exciting. We're going to have a presentation for the first time ever since the ICMS was created on rally racing. And rally racing, I'm not that familiar with it. I watch it on YouTube or on TV and think they're nuts because the fans stand 3 feet away from the circuit. Cars are coming over a hill sideways, sliding. I mean, it's ridiculously dangerous. We've had more people killed this year in rally racing than any other form of racing globally. But here's the sad thing, half of them have been spectators. Oh my gosh. So we got Steve Hyatt, who actually runs a medical safety team. He's the leading safety guy for rally racing in the North America. So I'm glad Steve's coming in to present. Terry Trammell and Denise came. I went to them and said, what happens when a racer gets sent to a hospital, whether it's a World of Outlaws race or a USAC race, drag race, IndyCar, what do y'all do? And they said, well, we're the only one that we think does what we do. Denise Titus, who is a nurse, is at every race. And if a driver has to be transported to a local hospital, they put Denise in the ambulance with that driver, even if their family's there, the wife's there, husband's there, doesn't matter. Denise goes, and Denise becomes that family and that race team and the series direct contact with the medical team at the hospital to communicate anything that's going on. And she does not leave the hospital until the driver gets released to go home. If they're there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe like Robert Wickens was, she never left the hospital. She was with Robbie the whole time. And what's really amazing, she has a plan in place after they get released from the hospital, what's the follow-up? And that's where a lot of times you get Dr. Julia Weiser involved, who's now the Chief Medical Officer for IndyCar and IMS. She gets involved in making sure they're going to the right doctors, getting the right scans done, therapy done, whatever that may be. And most times, I'll be honest with you guys, at IRP, we'd stick them in an ambulance, send them to Methodist, hope they're okay, bye-bye. We didn't have the staff to send anybody with them. And so I think that's important for us. The afternoon on day one is electrical vehicles. And that's such an unknown still of what we're dealing with EV racing and lithium-ion batteries. I will say we had to come up with about $40,000, but I did through a lot of support, and we were able to do an actually lithium-ion battery test at a facility in southern Indiana, Newberry, Indiana, down by Crane, right next to the Crane and Naval Station down there. Battery Innovation Center, BIC. And we had 3 separate tests that we did with battery cells. And we knew that there is not a fire suit that any of us wear in motorsports that can protect you from the temperatures coming from a lithium-ion battery fire, right? If IndyCar with the fuel source they have, IndyCar and NHRA with nitromethane or race gas that the USAC guys run, that temperature that can get up to, if it's a really bad fire, it'll get up to about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. A lithium-ion battery fire can get up to 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. There's not an Impact, Simpson, K1. There's not a suit out there that's going to protect the driver. So what we were trying to figure out is what else could we do for that driver to help keep him safe, as well as what are our rescue team, our fire safety team, when they go up to an incident, maybe there's a car fire with a lithium-ion battery, what are they breathing in, right? And this is where the Indianapolis Fire Department would like to know this. So we were trying to learn as much as we could about the gases that these things are releasing that our safety team members might be dealing with. And in the end, it's pretty scary. You know, we're going to have to try to figure out when we start having more electrical racing, how our safety team members, our fire rescue guys, team can wear some type of a breathing apparatus because to protect them. And if not, they're going to inhale a bunch of shit that we don't want them to inhale. And it's not good. So we have some really interesting. We have Ricard Johansson coming from Sweden. Ricard actually is the chief safety officer for the Swedish Automobile Sports Federation. He actually is involved as a chief safety officer for 3 different electric racing series that race globally. He probably has more experience with this than anybody. He's also a lieutenant in the fire department over in Sweden. So he's actually come over from Sweden just to present and be with us. You know, real quick, day 2 is shortboards and C-collars. When you have an accident, you see the racer, the safety team get up there. They put them on a board, backboard. They put a C-collar on them. There's so much debate on that. Everybody has their own personal opinion. We actually have some folks who've done a lot of research on comparing how the patient manages that. So I'm anxious for that. Julia Visor actually going to join us. Have you had Julia on the show? So Julia Visor is the chief medical officer for the IndyCar series and the Speedway. And she took over for Dr. Jeff Billows when Jeff stepped down and retired. And she was working the BC 39 event this past summer in turn 3. And there was a midget that barrel rolled it, and safety team got up there, and the safety team just said, well, we got to get out of the car. We got to get out of the car so we get the car off. We got to get going again. And honestly, she said, hold on. The driver just told me he can't feel his arms and legs. We're not doing anything yet. Let me talk to him. We have to assess this. Slow down. Let's think about it. Let's talk to the racer. Let's see what they're doing. And then we'll make a decision on how we're going to move. And, you know, again, that was one where I think at most of our short track grassroots weekly racing, they're not going to think about it. They're just going to yank and get them out and get the car going again, you know, get the race going again. So Julia is actually going to provide a case study on that and what we learned from that whole incident. And then lastly, and I'm proud of this, they really never did diddly squat with the ICMS for grassroots racing until I took over. And again, I'm a believer that's the core of our industry. There's more grassroots racers out there than all the pro classes combined. We have to give some effort towards that. But grassroots racing, as you guys know, you go to Kokomo, you go to Gas City, you go to Putnamville, Paragon, the last thing they want to spend any money on is medical and safety. The last thing. And that's a shame. So our organization, we've got a couple subcommittees trying to figure out how we can push down the knowledge that my top levels of racing, safety, and medical people know to the grassroots. But we're doing a whole afternoon on grassroots racing. And we're going to have 3 or 4 different topics. And Tom Deary from the Deary family, who's been in short track racing forever. Tom's working with PRI. He's actually going to be on a panel with Bob Sargent, who I think is a wonderful promoter. Joe Sucknicki out of New York. Joe's, again, owns the RPM monthly magazine or newspaper, whatever it is, and the little show that he does. We're going to have a pretty good group. We've got Tom Devitt from the World of Outlaws. We're going to have a pretty open discussion on where we're at with grassroots racing and what can we do to make it better for safety. So it's going to be an interesting couple of days. Then Friday, we do all hands-on training. It's a jump medic program, 8 hours of nothing but hands-on training for people that work on the medical side of motorsports. And that's and it all goes on down to the convention center, same time PRI is going on. We just don't go on the show floor. We're on our own little world upstairs.
Huh. And I understand you've got the most people signed up to attend that you've ever had.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's, you know, we've tried to ramp up just utilizing social media to make people aware of it. And then I challenged our membership, right? You have 220 members in 21 countries. I challenged them to try to help us promote this thing. So we tag them on social media. We ask them to share the emails. You know, we've got about 120 people signed up, and I'd say about 30 of them are not members of the ICMS. So to me, that's 30 potential members, which is exciting. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm anxious for it to get here.
Now, You just returned Monday, a day late.
Yeah.
You were over in Italy.
Yes.
At a first, somewhat of a PRI show, but it's the first one they've done in Italy. And
Yeah.
your name is such that when they said, what can we do to get into the American market? Tom Weisenbach.
Yeah.
So they flew you over, put you up in a Motel 6,
Yeah.
gave you coupons to go to a White Castle.
They had Burger King and McDonald's there.
Oh, well.
In Italy.
Hey,
I didn't know that.
You were sailing along. What was that, and what was your goal of going there?
So I was contacted through LinkedIn by an Italian company called RPM Italia about 6-7 months ago. Said that they had some companies that were members of their little group, all Italian companies that had an interest in trying to expand their company, and they're doing about 6-7 million euros a year in Europe, and they really wanted to try to figure out how to get their product to the U.S. motorsports market. Didn't know really how to do it, and they really want to try to make it happen as quickly as possible. So I've been talking to a couple different companies for about 6-7 months, and then the Italian trade agency. It's kind of like our economic development. I mean, Raleigh Henley's been on the show before. I mean, it's like our Department of Commerce, our economic development, but for the Italians, they call it the Italian trade agency. They literally called me up about 4 or 5 weeks ago and said, we'd like to invite you over to a first-time automotive trade show, Future Motive, and it was all about the future of EV and a lot of more exhibitors on hydrogen. The Europeans are 6-7 years ahead of us, and they're kind of kicking EV to the side, saying it's a waste of time and money. They're going with hydrogen, which is interesting. So they said, hey, we'll fly you over, we'll put you up in a hotel with our group and take care of all your meals, and we just want you to come over and meet with as many companies as you can. So it worked out great. It was in Bologna, Italy, which is a couple hours away from Rome. The companies I've been dealing with, trying to see how I could help them, are actually from Rome, and so they all just took the train in. I spent 6 hours meeting with a couple different companies I've been talking to, got to meet them for the first time other than Zoom, which was kind of nice, could shake their hand, that was kind of nice. The language barrier is a little bit of a challenge. You always have to make sure you got one person that is bilingual in the room. I don't know much Italian, they don't know much English, so we had 1 or 2 people in the group that could translate for us, but it was really interesting. And while I was there was another gentleman who was invited by the Italian trade agency from Poland. And talk to me, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know when I was with IndyCar, we had a driver from Poland race for Panther Racing. Anybody remember the name? Tomasz Ingi.
Oh, yeah.
Tomasz Ingi. And so I'm talking to this guy, I'm like, dude, I worked for IndyCar. We had a driver from Poland. It may have been one of the very first ones ever racing in IndyCar. Maybe the only one. He's, who is it? I could not remember. So I literally text Tom Blattler, my old PR buddy who lives out in Las Vegas. I said, TB, daggone it, who was that Polak we had running in IndyCar? And it was Tomasz Ingi. And so, but this company has a really unique technology that they sell into car dealerships and auctions. And obviously, Jeff Stoops was my partner in the trade show, still owns some car dealerships, but I've fortunate enough over the years to meet people from Hendrick and the Sonic Automotive Group, which is the Smith family, Bruton Smith's family, and Penske from the car dealership side. So I'm going to try to introduce this organization in Poland with those different car dealership groups, see if we can help them. So again, it was a unique experience, kind of a bonsai trip. I literally left Tuesday night, got there Wednesday morning. The show was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Friday was really, really cool. We left the trade show, and they took us for a trip up to the Ferrari Museum in Modena, Italy, where Mr. Ferrari was born and raised. A lot of amazing toys. Here's something I did not know. The Ferrari company actually manufactured an IndyCar chassis, and they were ready to bring it to IndyCar. They're going to leave Formula One at one point because they got pissed off with Formula One over turbochargers. and said, if you don't let us run turbochargers, we're going to leave. We're going to go to IndyCar. And they literally designed, there was the Ferrari IndyCar chassis on display in the museum. And again, it was neat because the group I was with had people from 5 or 6 different countries, and the poor guy, he could tell you all about the car, but he couldn't tell you about IndyCar. I said, let me tell you about IndyCar, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I talked for 10 minutes about the 500, how it's the greatest spectacle in racing. So again, it was a neat trip. The only thing that stunk, I told Don, he texted me, I think you texted me like on Thursday or Friday, and I said, yeah, I'll be more than happy to do it. I get back Sunday night. Be more than happy to be there Tuesday night. Well, we were delayed leaving Frankfurt, Germany, Sunday, whatever. It all ran together, 6-hour difference. But got to Frankfurt, Germany, had a 4-hour layover. The plane was already there, so I felt great. We're going to be on time. We left an hour and a half late. I missed my connection in Dulles in D.C., so I had to spend the night in D.C. And then because it's Thanksgiving week, the flights were all packed. So United Airlines like, okay, we're got to get you home. We know we got to get you home. So we can maybe send you to Chicago. There's more flights out of Chicago. I said, well, if you get me to Chicago, give me a rental car. I'll drive home if I have to. And they said, no, let's try to get you on standby on this first flight. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's the middle seat. That's not a good thing. So they got me on the very first flight out at like 8:40 in the morning on Monday. And I finally got home like at 11:30, but it was just a blur. I mean, your body's all messed up. And I wasn't there long enough to really get acclimated to their time zone. And then I come home and I'm all screwed up. I woke up today at 5 o'clock, couldn't go back to sleep, so I just went upstairs and started working. And I'm determined I'm going to stay up to about midnight tonight like I normally do working. And then hopefully I can sleep for like 6-7 straight hours. I'll be happy. A lot of fun though.
I'll certainly be happy for you. You know, it seems to me that somebody in your organization is starting to take advantage. There's some great people in the world, medical people, that understand that you need to get them all together.
Absolutely.
And put their ideas together and say, here's what we need to do for this event or this series or this type of facility or racetrack. And you're working and doing that, and it's impressive. You know, the number of people you got coming, and they're not just coming from Sheboygan. They're coming
from all
Europe,
over. Yeah, from all over
the world.
I will say it is neat how, you know, the Formula One race in Miami was a unique event when they kicked that off last year, and this year's event was good. That group, Tom Garfinkel, who worked for Ganassi Racing back when I was with IndyCar. Tom was Chip's main sales guy. He's the president of the Miami Dolphins and of the F1 initiative down there. They actually ordered 6 safety trucks for their event from John Evans at ESI Equipment out of Philadelphia, who's one of our members. And again, they built these things out using Monroe tools, just like IndyCar uses. They're the best tools to get drivers extricated out of cars. So what was really neat is the Vegas track. Not like they didn't spend enough money on that race, right? But the Vegas, the Vegas folks contacted Miami and said, "Listen, so we don't have to necessarily buy 6 new trucks this year. Would you guys be able to bring your 6 trucks from Miami that you bought from John out to Las Vegas?" And so again, working together. I never thought you'd see F1 tracks doing that. I don't think it was an FIA-driven deal because I don't think the FIA understands that. But the track safety teams were smart enough and friendly enough to work together to even get those safety trucks from Miami all the way out to Las Vegas so they could utilize them for last weekend's event.
Well, it's nice to know that people are waking up because at the speeds some of these cars are running, you need, and the development of the car, the safety aspects of the car, I think are second to none. The best racing in the world is IndyCar, in my opinion. And I have a gentleman coming up because there's an addition to the car this year that will be now, I should say it'll be in 24. I want to find out more about it because I get asked about it. I said, how in the world would I know? But I'll find out because I know who does know. So safety is of utmost importance. And when you realize when I first came here, I was here, was it Parnelli broke 150 miles an hour.
Right.
And a guy prior to that had mathematically proved it was impossible. And he did it. Now they're talking 240 miles an hour. Good Lord. But with Tony and Phil Casey and there's safer barriers that they've put together and spent a lot of money developing, and the safety in the cars. I asked drivers, are you nervous? No. Cars are safe. I can get hurt driving to the racetrack.
That's right.
And be in worse shape than when I'm in the race car and have a wreck.
Firestone tires at IndyCar are the best out there for them to use, and obviously all the other safety initiatives at IndyCar and I think the OEMs, Chevy and Honda, have brought into the sport are really important. There's no doubt, as far as I'm concerned, you know, IndyCar has been for years and years and years the leader in safety development. And I think if you look at what the safer barrier was created with the Holman George family making the funds available so the University of Nebraska could crash a lot of cars and learn, I think that was really important. When you look at a lot of the other bigger series. We won't say NASCAR or anything like that, but they typically, again, are reactive. And that's where I started with. That's where I wish us as an industry, we have to continue to push ourselves to be proactive, not reactive. Let's not wait till a driver gets killed to do something that we could have done beforehand and maybe save somebody's life.
Well, you're on the right track, and I appreciate you getting up at 5 o'clock this morning to get here. And I hope I hope you can stay up until midnight tonight, so you don't have to get up at 4 in the morning tomorrow.
If I do, get up and start working. That's all right.
Well, I appreciate everything you've done, and I know that the drivers and so forth and the teams are appreciative, because I've asked some of them, do you know what they're doing? Yeah, it's great. So thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks for having us.
And I'll come and...
If anybody's at the PRI show, I would say we're in meeting rooms 243, 244, 245 upstairs on the second floor for the 2 days of presentations. That room's going to be pretty full, I think. But for our hands-on training, which again, 1, 2, 3 of our instructors are all 3 of the female docs from IndyCar, the Motor Speedway. Angie Fiji, Julia Visor, Melissa McCarthy. They're 3 of our instructors for our hands-on training. But we'll be in the 500 ballroom, which is awesome. Last year we were in this little cracker box over in Lucas Oil Stadium. We had literally, Julia took her station, moved it out in the hallway by the bathrooms. We were so tight. But this year we got PRI put us in the 500 ballroom, which we appreciate. Allows us to spread out. And again, it's extrication. It's 8 different stations that all involve how to take a helmet off. If there's a spine injury, how do we treat that? Tourniquets, right? If someone's in the car bleeding, how do you apply it? And think about that. If you go back to Tony Stewart's incident in Iowa, or Hinch's. Hinch is the perfect example, because really his and Tony's both were very severe. But you got to get in there and stop the bleed as quick as you can, and get him out of that car and get him transported. And what's really neat, again, Jeff Billows has been with us forever as a member, but most of the folks involved in saving Hinch's life are all members of our group, and a lot of them are instructors. So what's neat is we've got people from Ozark Mountain Speedway, Ozark Motor Speedway, and over in Missouri. The World of Outlaws have like 7 different tracks they race at. Their World of Outlaws are paying for these people to come to our training because they want them to have that training. But what I love is who's doing the training. I think it's the best in the business. Jason Farinack from Port Royal Speedway over on the East Coast. Again, Angie and Melissa and Julia. Rob Seal from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada comes in as one of our instructors. He is the medical director for the FIA for all the Canadian races, chief medical officer for the Toronto Indy race. Rob comes in from Edmonton to be an instructor for us. I mean, it's these, and I don't pay him a dime because I don't have a dime to pay him. I don't pay for their hotel rooms because I don't have the money to pay for their hotel rooms. They cover all their own expenses and travel from all over to be an instructor for a day so we can train other people on safety. And that's a beautiful thing.
I think it's excellent. I think everybody, particularly participants and the team owners, appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting.
It'll be interesting to hear the outcome. I'll talk to you, of course, afterwards.
Stop by.
Until then.
Not at lunchtime, though. You always stop. When we're serving lunch, that's usually when Don shows up. I'm like, no. It's a buffet, but I don't have enough for you, Don. You have to come back later. So that's all right, though.
Well, I did get a White Castle coupon one time.
Yeah. I got leftover Halloween candy I'm taking this year for you, so we're good.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, DK. Appreciate it.
Tom Weisenbach. Mr. Safety.
Which one?
I don't know. The one you said Indy.
Oh, Julia. Yeah, I'll get you in contact with her. I mean, really, she would be great. She was the very first IU School of Medicine fellow. And Jeff Billows hand-selected her, and then when Jeff knew he was going to be dealing with this cancer situation, he literally hand-picked her, I think, to take over his role. So it's pretty, she's amazing.
I'll get a hold of her.
And she's right here. She works at IU. She teaches at IU School of Medicine. She works at the hospital. She works for IndyCar and IMS.
I'll find her.
Yeah, but I'll get you with her. She's a wonderful lady. You'd love to have her on.
I will have her. Thank you.
All right, bud.
My next guest is a gentleman that I chased down because I have a lot of questions concerning what's the hybrid with IndyCar? What is it? What's it going to do? How does it? Why is it? All that thing. So I have invited the gentleman who will know if Chuck is not too busy to allow him to come up here. He is the Vice President of Competition and Engineering with the IndyCar Series. And if he doesn't know what's going on with hybrid, then I know I don't know. He'll know. Please welcome Bill Pappas. Well, I chased you down, and you agreed to come. You said you had to get a little approval because and I understand going in that there are certain areas that we can't touch on, but we can talk around it.
All right.
I hope.
We'll do our best.
All right, now, IndyCar for a number of years has had what's called push-to-pass,
Yes.
and it increased the horsepower so in case somebody was running the same speed, they could pass the guy in front of them. It's always been my contention. These drivers that IndyCar has are probably about the best drivers in the world. If somebody makes a boo-boo, you ought to be able to pass him anyway because you're as good as he is. But neither here nor there, nobody asked me, they got pushed to pass.
Yes.
Now they're going to hybrid, and I understand that's the replacement for what was up to now the push to pass. How is that going to work?
Actually, it's going to be an augmentation of the push to pass. We aren't getting rid of the push to pass just right now. So the drivers will have two tools to try to overtake, another car. They'll have the standard push to pass, then they'll have this hybrid system, which they can charge and discharge whenever they want. With the push to pass, they're limited to amount of time that they get to use through the course of the race.
Yeah.
So this system will ultimately be able to be used several times throughout a lap, many times during the race.
So there won't be any restriction like there is currently. I mean, if they want to use it for 60 seconds every lap, they can do it, provided the capacitor recharges quick enough.
Correct, yes. If the systems can charge itself up, yes, they can use it as much as they want.
How long will a charge last?
Right now, in our preliminary testing, we're looking at about 4 to 6 seconds is what the charge will last when they go to discharge it.
How long does the original push to pass last?
That can be up to 8 seconds, 9 seconds.
So they could use actually the both.
That's correct.
So they can use the 9 seconds for the push to pass and use the capacitor and additional for another few seconds.
Correct.
So the driver's going to be busy pushing buttons trying to pass somebody. He's better keep his eye on the track.
That's what we're learning right now. We've had several drivers test the system. They all have had different opinions of how they'd like to use it, which is good. You don't want them all saying, no, it has to be this way. So we're still working on the final sporting regulations as far as how it would be used.
Is there a system in it that will allow, the minute you let go of the electric driven or the capacitor driven augment, it automatically starts to recharge instantly?
No, it has to have a couple scenarios for it to begin to recharge. It's basically a Pearce system, so like a Pearce system, it recharges under braking. So the driver, as soon as he gets into braking zone, it starts to recharge it. But we also have a manual system, which he'll be able to recharge it between braking zones if he's so wishes, to be able to try to use it at different points of the racetrack.
Now, there's an electric motor in the car that this capacitor is going to kick. Where is the motor located?
So our system is very unique. First off, most all hybrid systems are high voltage. They use lithium-ion batteries. We, as a series, recognized that there's lots of dangers with those systems. Ask Roman Grosjean. Just go to any place where a hybrid system catches fire, they basically burn to the ground. So we, as a series, decided that we couldn't go down that path. We sent out for bid. Several companies came back. Most of them were this high voltage lithium-ion system. And we says, first off, we don't have a location to put lithium-ion batteries. So I told the engineers and told the manufacturers, I said, it has to be contained within the bell housing. If we have catastrophic accidents, like the last one was with Robert Wickens, cars get into the air, they go through fences, a lot of bad things happen with our cars on super speedways. So we were thinking safety right off the bat. The lithium-ion battery direction wasn't going to, pass our requirement. The high voltage wasn't going to pass our requirement. So our system is contained within our bell housing. We have an electrical motor that's in line with the input shaft. It's 1-to-1 drive. The super capacitors are mounted above the electric motor in the bell housing, so everything's self-contained. It's, like I said, very unique. The third part was, all these systems, like I said earlier, are high voltage. We opted for a low voltage package, one, because the access to our cars compared to Formula One, is pretty enormous. The safety requirements for a high voltage system is incredibly difficult and complex, and we felt that we needed to make it as safe and as simple as possible, and that's why we went down this direction.
Where is the motor located? How much weight is it adding to the car?
It is in the bell housing. Like I said, it's right in line with the input shaft that goes from the engine to the gearbox. It just sits in between them. The electric motor, it's got magnets in it, and the entire system's going to probably add 70 pounds to the car as we sit right now. We're looking at different areas to reduce weight elsewhere, but it's an electric motor. Anybody pick up an electric motor, they're pretty heavy.
That's for sure. Have the drivers said, this thing's a little difficult to set up the car? They have to do a lot of setup, I would think.
I mean, they're all adapting to it. That's what engineers are paid for, and drivers are paid to do. It's changed the mechanical balance of the car because it shifted the weight distribution. So the teams have gone back and done their simulations and gone through some analysis, and they all seem to be coming out and pretty comfortable with their cars when they go hit the track running.
Will this add horsepower?
Yes, it'll add, again, at the beginning, we're looking, about 65 horsepower. The electric motor itself is capable of over 100 horsepower. But again, we just want to make sure that we, are able to walk before we try to run.
Yeah, you hit the button for 4 or 6 seconds, you get 100 horsepower. The
It's going
wheels
to be
will
different.
spin.
Big difference. So
That car will jump.
yeah.
Is there a way to control that? If you got a system in it where it won't just all of a sudden, here we're going from 800 to 900 horsepower, boom, by pushing a button?
Yeah, well, again, we're working with, our software partners. HPD with Honda is involved with the software development. McLaren is involved with software development. And, again, call them sporting regulations. How does this thing want to be used? How much do you want to give the driver to be able to adjust the system in the car? So we're still working on those.
You told me that a couple of your partners are behind kind of pushing this effort forward. Is that Chevy and Honda that are looking to do that?
Sure, both of them, they're engaged in embracing the e-world. Everybody's going towards hybrids and electrical cars. And they came to us and said, we need to have something that has some relative, relationship with what we sell. And, they asked if we thought about a hybrid system. And, again, we said we had, and this is the direction that we went.
Is there enough accomplished up to now that by 24, when they go to St. Pete, they'll have it ready to go?
It's a work in progress. We got a test next week.
Mark Miles told me.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
So they're where are they testing?
We're testing at Homestead 3 days next week.
All right.
Yep, or 2 weeks, I'm sorry, 2 weeks.
That's all right, that's fine, 2 weeks. That's a good track, because they've tested here.
Yeah.
Super Speedway, now they're going down to a shorter track
We've tested obviously here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, both the road course and then the oval. We've tested at Iowa. We've tested at Gateway. We've tested at Barber in Alabama. We've tested at Sebring extensively. We've tested at Road America, and now, as the weather's turned and the availability of tracks is more difficult, Homestead's been a great place to test.
Yeah, it's in the south. As long as it isn't raining,
Yeah.
you're in good shape.
Yes.
What got you into motorsports? I mean, you've been around for a long time. You worked for various race teams, and then you got the call to come and join IndyCar. But what got you started in motorsports to begin with?
I grew up here in Indianapolis. My folks were originally from Chicago. They moved into a neighborhood full of locals. They took my dad to the Indy 500 in 1957, and he was amazed. And, my family got more and more involved with the Speedway and the ongoings of what happens around the Speedway. Got to know a lot of the drivers. One of my friends' father ran a machine shop that I kind of hang out, watch what they do. The place would get very busy during the month of May, back then when people built their own parts. And it was just fascinating to me. So, long story short, get to high school, take advanced sciences and mathematics classes, but at the same time, went across the street to the vocational school and learned how to weld and make parts and draw. And went to Purdue University. I have a mechanical and aeronautical engineering degree, and this always fascinated me. I was very competitive as a young person, played football and basketball through high school and college, and I get out of college and I go and start designing weapons guidance systems. Well, those are for things that you hope you never see, and you're 22 years old and it bore the hell out of you. So, I'm living in Phoenix at the time, so I go out to PIR, see some old friends, help out with some of the race teams there. Go to Riverside when they ran at Riverside, Long Beach. We ran at Long Beach, Vegas, and just kept wanting to be involved in racing. And lo and behold, about 1980, after I left the aerospace industry, I went to work for Jack Roush, and he was the hardest working man I've ever met. He was a racer, and on race weekends, I'd jump in an airplane with him and fly all over the country to go racing in GTO and GTO, GTP, and Trans Am cars, and still wasn't enough. He offered me a gig to go down and help start his stock car team. It really wasn't up for that, and met Jim McGee at a race, and kept in contact with him, and out of the blue he called me up and said they were looking for a junior engineer and wanted to know if I was interested. I said, hell yeah. As they say, the rest is history.
It's amazing how this sport can grab you. I mean, I came here, a friend of mine has been coming here since 1952, and he sits up in the top corner of the Tower Terrace at the north end, and as they built the terrace, he's moved right on down with them. And he talked me into coming here in 1964, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
There's something about it, the people involved. I mean, you very seldom hear a lot of the stuff you hear in other professional sports.
Yes.
A couple of times in the time I've been here has been some problems, but nothing like anywhere else.
Yeah.
And the smart people, what they've developed through racing and race cars, going on the street is amazing. And the guys that they give you a race car and you figure out how to make it go faster. And the whole secret is, how can we go quicker?
Yeah, that's why we do it.
And so now you're going to give them another horsepower,
Wow.
100 horsepower. That's going to be amazing to watch that.
We'll see if we get to 100. You got to start out, like I said, walk before you run. So we don't have that just yet.
I noticed that you have a championship ring on your finger.
I have 3 of them. I was chief engineer for Juan Montoya and Scott Dixon when he won the 500. I was an engineer with Emerson Fittipaldi when they won the 500. Patrick Racing.
You picked the right people to work for. That's a good move.
Thank you. Very proud of those 3 wins.
But let's face it, when you work for some of these guys, especially if you work for Chip, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, he's pretty demanding.
And he's got 3 letters in his vocabulary. W-I-N.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's, if you can't win, let's get the next one in there.
Yep.
Amazing. Between he and Mike Hall, amazing career.
Yep.
And And the comparison, in my opinion, between IndyCar, and I've talked to the drivers that come from IndyCar, come here, and they love it here. The competition, you got a chance to win on every weekend. They come from Formula One, where if you weren't one of the 2 or 3 best teams, you're looking to finish mid-pack,
Right.
hopefully. And they're loving the competition, and it's kind of neat. When a couple of them have come in, and I said, "Have you ever run on an oval?" "No." "Well, you're in for a real treat." And strangely enough, after they've done it a couple of times, they love it.
Yeah.
And they like the short tracks.
Yeah.
That's the thing that amazes me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've embraced, that's classical IndyCar open wheel racing, start on short tracks. So they do take to it really well.
it's a fun thing. On race weekend, where are you? Besides everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere. So I'm kind of like at Jay Fry's beckett and call. So he spends most of his time in timing and scoring, or race control, up in race control. And our trailer that we have has all the closed circuit TV, so we see everything that race control is watching. And all of a sudden, if we have an issue, somebody crashes, I go take a look at the car. Jay calls me up, asks what I think. Somebody has issues blistering tires on ovals, I go find Firestone folks, sit down, spend time with them, decide what's going on there, and report back to Jay. If there's an incident in pit lane, I'm there to assess what's going on and get back in touch with him.
And while he's up there with shrimp cocktail and so forth.
Sure.
Yeah,
He's pretty busy.
Oh, yeah, I think the people that are in place since Mr. Penske has come in, and the thing that I hear from everybody that goes to the meetings, which they have frequently, as I'm sure you're aware, he'll listen to anybody.
Yes.
If you got an idea, tell me.
Yeah. I mean,
You never know who's come up with something.
I'll tell you, he's been amazing from the day he showed up. He basically, carried the series through COVID. Even though it's 3 years ago, we're still kind of recovering from it. We've tried to curtail our schedules, to adapt to that type of world now. But Roger, he does. He walks up to you in the middle of pit lane, wants to know what's going on. Got time to sit down and talk, he'll talk to you. You send him ideas, he responds to them. I get calls and emails and texts while he's up in the spotters box at Phoenix for the Cup race. So the guy's, he's always willing to communicate to anybody that's passionate about the business the way he is.
I remember talking to Al Sr. one day, and I said, "You're with Roger a lot." He said, "Yeah, he'd fly all over the place." I said, "When the hell does he sleep?" He said, "On a plane."
On the plane. Not very much.
Yeah, 'cause he's on the move all the time.
Yeah.
And his son, Greg, I think it's Greg or Gary.
Greg.
I said, does Roger get to the dealerships? "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah." I don't think he has quite as many now as he used to, but they said he pops in.
Still gets in there.
He gets in everywhere. I wonder if he checks his Penske trucks. See how they're doing.
I wouldn't doubt that he
I wouldn't be
doesn't.
surprised
Yeah.
either. But it's interesting as things are evolving, and I think it's smart. You guys obviously have read and seen the results of lithium-ion batteries. I mean, just the flooding down in Florida, and the car's battery shorted out, and they caught on fire, and they couldn't. The water didn't put them out.
Yeah.
Nothing puts them out. To stay away from that. Well, strangely enough, there's a battery that's got 17 patents on it that's coming out that's going to revolutionize the battery business, and it's lighter, cheaper, charges faster, and lasts longer, and it's lighter.
Okay.
So when that comes around, I'm going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, take a look at this."
All right.
You never know.
Yep.
So what's next? What's next for IndyCar? What's on the development board now?
The big thing still is going to be the hybrid and the development and evolution of that forward. We're always looking at safety. Aerodynamic safety is always critical as we go faster, as you were talking about earlier. We always have to reevaluate our aero criterias. So, it's an ongoing evolution. Just want to have safe, good races.
And as I said when I was talking to Tom, that I've asked the drivers, when you strap in, are you concerned? No. These cars are safe. I mean, there's obviously things can happen, but for the most part, the safer barrier that was developed is, and I have to say, when they first put them at the Speedway, He invited me out to look at it, and it's called it the safer barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran up against it,
Mm-hmm.
knocked me on my butt. I said, that thing isn't safe. I was a soft wall, that's what it was, soft wall. So that damn thing isn't soft, but it's
So
done the job.
let me tell you something. If a driver tells you that he's doesn't worry about things, he isn't going fast enough.
Well,
Hate to tell you,
well, yeah, but
it's the facts.
Well, that's true, but they're all.
They're all scared to death during the course of what they do.
And some of the
They aren't going fast enough. Ask about Mario Andretti, AJ Foy, Al Senior, Scott
Did you ever
Dixon.
see some of the stuff that Bobby Unser did? He couldn't have possibly been scared. He wouldn't.
He
have
couldn't
done-
see.
Well, that's right,
Come on.
yeah. I watched him the first couple of times I was at Milwaukee.
He was
Some of the
blind.
A couple of passes he made, I said, good grief, how did he do that? But it's still the best racing in the world.
I agree. That's why we're here.
If the guy that's at last is scared, he's only a second behind the leader, so he's not that scared.
Yeah.
It's a great series. A lot of time is you're spent developing, and I think it's phenomenal. I think, what you're doing, as I said, push to pass is not my greatest thrill, in my opinion, but nobody asked me what I thought. And it works, and it's happy, and people like it, and that's all that counts.
Well, we could bring out DRS if you want.
No, that's okay. I hope not.
I hope not either.
All right, I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
And when things get developed and get to working, so that's right, I forgot Chucky Boo gave you a question.
He's got a question here. Well, cars have starters now that they have the electric. We still are going to keep the starter, system in place. The car will be able to start without that, but again, got to walk before you run. The biggest thing that the electric system is going to help us is when cars spin off, especially street courses, where the safety crew goes scrambling out there with their 20-foot, 40-pound cable and starter to try to restart cars. The capacitor system will have enough charge left where it should restart the car, and you'll be able to take off.
All right, that'll help. That'll save cautions, and hopefully.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And as far as your question about the specs for capacitors, I can't tell you at this point.
Why, are you gonna build one? You got an idea?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, so was I, and he said there's certain things I can't talk about. So I knew that going in, so I didn't ask him. Because he
That's
couldn't
all
tell
right.
me.
That's all right.
Well, listen, I think,
Anybody else? Sir?
The electric battery will be, we're on the lower end more than the higher end, right?
Lower end meaning what?
Torque-wise.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Are they gonna be used to leave the pits?
Again, as we look down the road, that's on the plan to do that, yes. The first thing is starting the cars, like we said, be able to get out of situations. But the idea is pit lane. The problem is the amount of charge and where you have to recharge and how you use this thing will depend on where you are in pit lane. So you need to make it equitable for everybody. So it's really hard in our world to be able to do that, unlike some of the other series.
So the hybrids and sports cars, they use the electric motor to leave the pits.
Yeah, yes,
So they got more torque coming out of the pits.
yes. But they don't care about pit time because it's a mandatory amount of time you have to stay on pit lane, so it doesn't matter whether you're up here or back here. With us, it's everything.
well, see, there is, I was told that the part of this hybrid thing was to get out of the pit area. And you said not necessarily, and I talked to a couple of drivers and said, all you do is stand on the gas. You can only go so many miles an hour anyway. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't really get to do you much.
Not
one way or the
from
other.
a performance standpoint, no.
Well, I appreciate you taking the
Sure.
time and explaining what's going on.
All right.
And we look forward to seeing how it happens, and since I know how to find you. Once
Anytime.
things get developed, we'll talk about it again and see what's next on the calendar.
Very good. Thank
Thanks
you very
for being
much,
here.
Don. No problem.
Vice President of Competition of NGA, Bill Pappas. Our next program will be, I believe it's December the 5th. I'm working on a couple of people, hoping they're coming in for the PRI show. We'll see. You'll get to see who it is and when it is and so forth. But until next time, Don Kay saying thanks for watching, thanks for being. Until next time, see ya.